The Great Hall of the Galactic Council stretched for miles in every direction. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy sat in floating seats that moved through the air like slow clouds. The walls were made of crystal that showed the stars outside, and the floor glowed with soft blue light. Ambassador Zexthai stood at the center podium. His tall, thin body cast a long shadow on the floor. His skin was pale blue, and his four arms moved gracefully as he spoke. Behind him, a hologram showed a small yellow star with 9 planets orbiting around it. "Council members," Zexthai said, his voice echoing through the hall. "Today we discuss the 3rd planet of the Sol system. The beings there call it Earth." Murmurs filled the hall. Most council members had never heard of this small world. It was far from the main trade routes and had no valuable resources worth fighting over. "These humans have been watching us for some time," Zexthai continued. "Our scouts report they have primitive space travel. They have landed on their own moon and sent small probes to nearby planets. They are making progress, but they are still very young as a species." A creature that looked like a giant insect clicked its mandibles together. "Why do we care about such a backward world?" Zexthai smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Because they are expanding. In 50 years, they will have ships that can travel between stars. In 100 years, they will start colonies on other worlds. We must act now, while they are still weak." The hall grew quiet. Every member of the council knew what this meant. For thousands of years, the council had followed the same pattern with new species. When a race developed space travel, they were given a choice: join the council and follow its laws, or be destroyed. "What do we know about their military?" asked a being made of living metal. Its voice sounded like grinding gears. "Very basic," Zexthai replied. "They fight wars on their own planet with crude weapons, projectile guns, explosive devices, and simple aircraft. Nothing that could threaten even our oldest ships." The hologram changed to show images of human cities. Tall buildings reached toward the sky, and millions of lights twinkled in the darkness. Roads filled with small vehicles wound between the structures like rivers. "They have divided themselves into many nations," Zexthai explained. "These nations fight each other regularly. They cannot even unite their own world, so they pose no real threat to galactic peace." An ancient being that looked like a walking tree raised one of its branch-like arms. "What is their population?" "Nearly 8 billion, Zexthai answered. "But they are scattered across their planet. Most live in these cities we see here." The tree being's leaves rustled. "That is quite large for such a young species." "Yes," Zexthai agreed. "But numbers mean nothing without technology or unity. We have seen this pattern many times before. Young species breed quickly, but they lack the wisdom to use their numbers effectively." The giant insect clicked again. "So what do we propose?" Zexthai's 4 arms spread wide. "The standard procedure. We offer them membership in the council under our guidance. They will disarm their military forces and accept our protection. We will help them develop proper technology and teach them civilized behavior." "And if they refuse?" asked the metal being. "Then we follow Protocol 7, Zexthai said simply. Everyone in the hall knew what Protocol 7 meant. Complete conquest. The species would be enslaved or destroyed, and their world would be divided among council members. "Have we made contact yet?" the tree being asked. "Not officially," Zexthai replied. "But our scouts have been careful to let them see us. Some of their governments know we exist. They are already preparing to meet us." The hologram changed again, showing a small fleet of ships approaching Earth. The vessels were enormous, each one the size of a human city. Their hulls were smooth and white, and they moved through space without any visible engines. "I will lead the contact mission personally," Zexthai announced. "We will arrive at their world in 7 days. I expect this to be routine." A new voice. spoke from the back of the hall. It belonged to a creature covered in blue fur with 6 legs and large, intelligent eyes. What if they are different from other young species? HFY laughed. Different how? They are barely out of their own atmosphere. They fight with metal bullets and chemical explosives. What could they possibly do to threaten us? The blue creature's ears twitched nervously. I have studied their history. They are very good at killing each other. In their most recent global war, they killed over 50 million of their own kind in just 6 years. Primitive savagery, HFY dismissed. Once they see our power, they will submit like all the others. These humans may be violent toward each other, but they will bow before superior technology and wisdom. The council voted quickly. Nearly all members agreed to extend the standard offer to humanity. Only the blue creature voted against it, but one voice could not change the decision of thousands. As the meeting ended, HFY prepared for departure. His ship was the largest in the fleet. Armed with weapons that could crack planets and defended by shields that could stop any attack these humans might attempt. 7 days later, the Council fleet appeared in Earth's sky. Every human on the planet could see the massive ships hanging in the air above their cities like steel clouds. Panic spread across the world as people realized they were not alone in the universe. HFY's message was broadcast to every human communication device on the planet. His image appeared on television screens, computer monitors, and phones. When he spoke, his words were translated into every human language at once. People of Earth, he began, his voice calm and confident. I am Ambassador HFY of the Galactic Council. We represent 10,000 civilizations across this galaxy. We have watched your progress with interest. On Earth below, billions of humans stopped what they were doing to listen. In government buildings around the world, leaders gathered around, screens with pale faces and shaking hands. Your species has reached a crossroads, HFY continued. You have developed the technology to leave your world and explore the stars. This brings you to our attention, and now you must make a choice. The camera view switched to show the massive fleet hanging in Earth's atmosphere. Hundreds of ships blocked out the sun in some places, casting enormous shadows on the ground. You may join the Galactic Council as a protected species. We will help you develop proper technology and teach you civilized behavior. Your violent ways will be corrected, and your people will know peace. In exchange, you will disarm your military forces and accept our guidance in all matters. HFY paused, letting his words sink in around the world. Or you may choose to remain isolated and primitive. In that case, we will ensure you never leave this solar system. Your choice will determine whether your species has a future among the stars or remains trapped on this single world forever. The IZ transmission ended, leaving 8 billion humans staring at blank screens. HFY leaned back in his command chair and smiled. In 30 years of conducting these negotiations, no species had ever chosen isolation over membership. The humans would submit within days, just like all the others. He gave them one standard galactic week to decide. It was more time than most species needed, but these humans seemed more divided than usual. Some of their leaders were already sending messages of surrender, while others spoke of resistance. Not that it mattered. HFY had seen resistance before. It never lasted long once the shooting started. The week passed slowly for HFY and his fleet. They remained in Earth's atmosphere, their massive ships casting shadows over human cities below. The ambassador expected the usual pattern: panic, then desperate negotiations, then final surrender. But something felt different this time. Human leaders from around the world had been meeting constantly. Their primitive communication networks buzzed with activity day and night. Some nations wanted to surrender immediately, while others spoke of fighting. HFY found their debates amusing. What could they possibly do against Council technology? On the seventh day, the response finally came. President Chen of the United Earth Coalition appeared on communication screens around the fleet. She was a middle-aged human woman with gray hair and tired eyes. Behind her stood representatives from every major nation on Earth. "Ambassador Zexatai," she began, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "We have considered your offer carefully." Zexatai leaned forward in his command chair, confident he was about to witness another species surrender. His officers around the bridge prepared the standard integration protocols. "Our answer is no," President Chen said simply. Silence filled the bridge of Zexatai's ship. His four eyes blinked slowly, not quite understanding what he had heard. "I'm sorry," he said, activating his communication system. "Did you say no?" "We reject your offer of membership," President Chen replied. "Humanity will remain free and independent. We ask that you leave our solar system immediately." Zexatai's laugh echoed through the bridge. His officers joined in, their various alien sounds mixing together in amusement. A few species had tried to resist before, but never so directly. Usually they at least pretended to consider the offer seriously. "I think you misunderstand your situation," Zexatai said, still chuckling. "You have no choice in this matter. You will submit to council authority, or you will be destroyed. There is no third option." President Chen's expression didn't change. "We understand perfectly. Our answer remains no." The communication link ended. Zexatai stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to his tactical officer. "Begin standard pacification procedures. Target their major cities and military installations. We'll give them a few hours to reconsider after they see what our weapons can do." But before the tactical officer could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. "Sir," the sensor operator called out, his voice high with panic. "We're detecting multiple launches from the planet's surface." On the main screen, thousands of small objects were rising from Earth, like a swarm of angry insects. They were crude by council standards, but there were so many of them that they filled the space around the planet like a metal cloud. "Nuclear missiles," the tactical officer reported. "Primitive, but armed with fusion warheads." Zexatai wasn't concerned. Council shields could stop much more powerful weapons than these crude human devices. "Raise shields. Destroy the missiles before they reach us." The fleet's defensive systems activated, sending beams of energy toward the approaching missiles. Explosions lit up the space around Earth like fireworks, as the human weapons were destroyed by the hundreds. But something was wrong. Even as the council ships destroyed the missiles, more kept coming, and some of them were getting through. "Sir," the tactical officer said, his voice uncertain, "some of these missiles aren't exploding when we hit them. They're just falling apart." "What do you mean?" Zexatai demanded. Before the officer could answer, the first human ship appeared. It materialized directly beside one of the council vessels, as if it had been invisible until that moment. The human ship was small and angular, built more like a weapon than a vehicle. Its hull was black metal covered in strange symbols. Without warning, the human ship accelerated directly toward the council vessel beside it. "Collision course!" someone shouted. "They're going to ram us!" The council ship tried to move away, but the human vessel was faster than anyone expected. It struck the larger ship near the engine section and exploded in a ball of nuclear fire. Both ships were destroyed instantly. "What madness is this?" Zexatai whispered, staring at the explosion in horror. More human ships appeared throughout the fleet. They were everywhere at once, as if they had been hiding in empty space, just waiting for the signal to attack. One flew directly at a council vessel and exploded on contact. "They're using suicide attacks!" the tactical officer screamed. "Every ship is a bomb!" Zexatai had never seen anything like it. In 30 years of conquering worlds, no species had ever used suicide tactics. It went against every civilized rule of warfare. Battles were fought between professional soldiers who valued their own lives. You didn't throw away trained crews just to damage the enemy, but these humans seemed perfectly willing to die if they could take Council ships with them. "Return fire," Zexthai ordered. "Destroy them all." The Council fleet's weapons lit up space with beams of energy. Human ships exploded by the dozens, but more kept appearing, and those that survived long enough reached their targets and detonated. In 10 minutes of fighting, Zexthai lost a third of his fleet. Then the real attack began. Larger. Human ships appeared at the edge of the solar system. These weren't suicide vessels, but actual warships armed with weapons Zexthai didn't recognize. They moved in strange patterns, never flying straight toward their targets, but weaving through space like they were dancing. "Analysis of human weapons," Zexthai demanded. "Kinetic projectiles," his science officer reported. "Metal slugs fired at incredible speed. They're using magnetic acceleration to—" The officer's words were cut off as one of the human projectiles punched through the shields of a nearby Council ship and tore it in half. The massive vessel broke apart like a child's toy, its pieces spinning away into space. "How is that possible?" Zexthai whispered. "Their technology is primitive." But as he watched the battle unfold, he began to understand. The humans weren't trying to match Council technology. They were using physics itself as a weapon. Their kinetic projectiles had so much speed and mass that they could penetrate energy shields designed to stop directed energy weapons. It was clever, and it was working. Another human tactic became clear as the battle continued. They weren't just attacking the Council ships directly. Some human vessels were ramming the debris from destroyed ships, sending chunks of metal flying at high speed toward other Council vessels. They were using the wreckage as weapons. "Sir," the communication officer said, his voice shaking, "we're receiving surrender requests from 12 of our ships." Zexthai couldn't believe what he was hearing. Council ships didn't surrender. They were crewed by professional military officers from the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. They had never lost a battle against a primitive species. But the humans weren't fighting like any primitive species he had ever encountered. They fought like they enjoyed it, like they had been planning this moment for years. "Fleet status report," he ordered. The tactical officer's hands shook as he read from his display. 60% casualties, sir. We've lost over half our ships." Zexthai stared at the battle display in shock. Red symbols marked destroyed Council vessels, while green dots showed human ships still attacking. There were far more red symbols than green. "Retreat," he whispered. "Sir," the tactical officer asked. "Retreat," Zexthai shouted. "All ships withdraw. To minimum safe distance immediately." The surviving Council ships fled from Earth's orbit, their advanced engines carrying them away from the savage battle they had stumbled into. Behind them, human ships continued to hunt down stragglers, ramming and destroying any vessel too slow to escape. As his flagship limped away from Earth, Zexthai tried to understand what had gone wrong. Every calculation had predicted an easy victory. The humans had primitive technology and no unified military command. They should have surrendered after the first demonstration of Council power. Instead, they had fought back with a ferocity that defied all logic. They used tactics no civilized species would ever consider. They treated their own lives as expendable weapons, and worst of all, they had won. For the first time in Council history, a primitive species had defeated a pacification fleet through pure savagery and willingness to die. Zexthai activated his long-range communication system with shaking hands. The Council had to know what they were dealing with. These humans weren't just another young species to be guided and controlled. They were something else entirely, something dangerous. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened 3 days after Zexthai's humiliating retreat from Earth. The Great Hall buzzed with shocked whispers as representatives from across the galaxy tried to understand how a primitive species had destroyed over half a pacification fleet. Zexthai stood before the Council, his usual confidence replaced by visible anxiety. His 4 arms trembled slightly as he activated the holographic display showing the battle above Earth. "Council members," he began, his voice hoarse. "What we witnessed at the Sol system was unlike anything in our recorded history. These humans fight with a savagery that defies all civilized understanding." The ancient tree being rustled its leaves impatiently. "You're telling us that primitives with crude technology defeated our most advanced fleet?" "Not just defeated," Zexthai replied grimly. "They seemed to enjoy it. Our analysis shows they were smiling during suicide runs, smiling as they died to kill us." Murmurs of disbelief filled the hall. The concept was so alien to most council species that they couldn't process it. Warfare was supposed to be clinical, professional, with minimal casualties on both sides. The idea of deliberately throwing away lives for tactical advantage was incomprehensible. The giant insect clicked its mandibles nervously. "Perhaps we underestimated their technology." Zexthai shook his head. "Their weapons were primitive by our standards. Metal projectiles, chemical explosives, fusion bombs, but they used them in ways we never predicted. They turned physics itself into a weapon." A new voice spoke from the upper tiers of the hall. It belonged to General Korthax of the Hegemony military, a massive being covered in natural armor plating. "One battle does not make these humans a real threat. We will mobilize a proper invasion force and crush them completely." "With respect, General," Zexthai said carefully, "I don't think you understand what we're dealing with. Show them the recordings from the captured human communications." The holographic display changed to show intercepted radio transmissions from Earth during the battle. Human voices spoke in dozens of different languages, but the translation systems made their meaning clear. "Echo Squadron ramming speed on the big one. Copy that, Echo Leader. It's been an honor serving with you. Bravo, Wing. We're out of ammunition. Beginning suicide run on target designated Charlie 7. Roger. Bravo, Wing. Give 'em hell." The recordings continued, showing human pilots calmly discussing their own deaths as if they were routine tactical decisions. Worse, many of them seemed excited about it. The council hall fell silent as the implications sank in. These weren't desperate last stands or acts of panic. The humans had planned to use suicide tactics from the beginning. "There's more," Zexthai said grimly. He activated another recording, this one from after the battle. It showed human leaders addressing their population. "Citizens of Earth," President Chen said on the recording, "we have won our first victory against the alien invaders. But this is only the beginning. They will return with larger fleets and more powerful weapons. We must be ready." The recording cut to scenes of human factories working at maximum capacity. Massive assembly lines produced ships, weapons, and ammunition around the clock. Most disturbing of all, long lines of humans waited to volunteer for what they called Kamikaze Corps. "They're not just willing to die," Zexthai explained to the horrified council. "They're eager to do it. Our psychologists can't explain it. Every other species values individual survival above military objectives. These humans treat death in battle as an honor." General Korthax's armor plates shifted as he processed this information. "Then we destroy them from a distance, use planet cracking, weapons to eliminate the entire system." "That's genocide," the blue-furred creature protested from the back of the hall. "We are supposed to be civilized. We don't exterminate entire species just because they resist us." "These aren't normal resistance fighters," the metal being argued, its voice grinding like broken machinery. "They're a disease that could spread to other species. What if other worlds see that humans defeated us and decide to try the same tactics?" The tree being's leaves rustled with worry. "The creature has a point. Our authority depends on the belief that resistance is futile. If word spreads that a primitive world can defeat our fleets, it won't spread," General Korthax declared, "because there won't be any humans left to tell the story. We'll destroy Earth and claim it was a natural disaster. Problem solved. But before the council could vote on genocide, new alarms began sounding throughout the hall. The blue creature's ears perked up as emergency signals flashed on displays around the room. "What's happening?" the tree being demanded. A junior aide rushed into the hall, his tentacles writhing with panic. "Sirs, we're receiving distress calls from hegemony colonies in 7 different sectors." General Korthax's armor went rigid. "What kind of distress calls?" "They're under attack. Ships matching human designs have appeared at Kepler Station, New Centauri, and 5 other locations. They're using the same suicide tactics we saw at Earth." The Bay Council erupted in chaos as representatives shouted questions and accusations. How had humans traveled such vast distances so quickly? How had they found heavily defended hegemony colonies? How had they coordinated simultaneous attacks across hundreds of light years? Zexthai felt cold fear creeping through his body. "Show us the attack reports." The holographic display lit up with battlefield recordings from across hegemony space. Human ships appeared without warning at military installations and civilian colonies. They struck with the same savage efficiency they had shown at Earth, but now they were using captured council technology mixed with their own brutal innovations. At Kepler Station, human vessels rammed into the main reactor, causing a nuclear explosion that destroyed the entire facility and everyone on it. At New Centauri, they released some kind of biological weapon that killed every hegemony citizen but left the human attackers unharmed. "How is this possible?" General Korthax demanded. "We destroyed their fleet at Earth. How do they have ships in our territory?" "We didn't destroy their fleet," Zexthai realized with growing horror. "We destroyed the ships they wanted us to see. The real fleet was already on its way to attack us." The recordings showed human tactics that made the council representatives sick to their stomachs. They didn't just destroy military targets. They hunted down fleeing civilians and killed them without mercy. They broadcast threats in broken hegemony languages, promising to kill every alien they found until the council left Earth alone. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to be having fun. "Sir," the aide called out again, "more reports coming in. Hegemony colonies at Delta Eridani and Wolf 359 have gone completely silent. No response to any communications." General Korthax was no longer talking about easy victories. His voice had taken on a desperate edge. "How many ships do these humans have? How did they build a fleet capable of attacking multiple star systems simultaneously?" Zexthai studied the attack patterns on the display. The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. Every strike had hit at exactly the moment when the council fleet was retreating from Earth. "They've been planning this for years," he whispered. "Maybe decades. They knew we were watching them. They knew we would come, and they prepared." The blue creature's voice cut through the noise of the panicking council. "I tried to warn you. I studied their history. These humans have been fighting each other for thousands of years. They know more about war than any species in the galaxy. But how did they get the technology for interstellar travel, the metal being demanded? They were barely capable of reaching their own moon." "They've been stealing it," Zexthai realized. "Every time we sent scout ships to observe them, some of those ships disappeared. We assumed they were lost to accidents or equipment failure. But the humans were capturing them, learning from them, reverse engineering our technology." The holographic display showed new footage from the attack on New Centauri. Human soldiers in primitive armor were boarding a damaged hegemony cruiser. But instead of killing the crew immediately, they were taking prisoners. "They're not just stealing our technology," the tree being observed with growing dread. "They're taking our people, learning our weaknesses, our biology, our psychology." As if summoned by those words, a new transmission appeared on the display. It showed a human male in a blood-stained uniform standing in what looked like a hegemony command center. Behind him, alien bodies were scattered across the floor. "People of the Galactic Council," the human said in perfect hegemony language. "My name is Colonel Sarah Martinez of the United Earth Defense Force. We have a message for you." The human held up what looked like a hegemony head, though it was too damaged to identify the species. This is what happens to anyone who threatens Earth. We don't negotiate. We don't surrender. We don't show mercy." She threw the head aside and smiled directly into the camera. "We are coming for all of you. Every world that supported the invasion of Earth will burn. Every species that voted to enslave humanity will face extinction. We will hunt you across the galaxy until there is nothing left but ash and memory." The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. General Korthax's armor plating was now clicking together rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. "We have to mobilize every fleet The Galactic Council was dying, and everyone knew it. 6 months had passed since the first human attacks, and the situation had spiraled beyond anyone's worst nightmares. What began as a simple pacification mission had become a galaxy-wide crisis that threatened the very foundation of civilized space. The emergency session had been running for 3 days straight. Council members who had once debated matters with calm dignity now shouted at each other across the Great Hall. Some called for total war against humanity. Others demanded immediate peace negotiations. A growing number simply wanted to flee to the far edges of the galaxy and hoped the humans never found them. HFY stood at the central podium, but he was no longer an ambassador. The humans had made sure of that. 3 weeks earlier, a human strike team had infiltrated his home world and destroyed the entire diplomatic quarter of the capital city. The message was clear. There would be no more talking. "Current casualty reports," he announced to the assembly, his voice hollow with exhaustion. The numbers appeared on the holographic displays around the hall, and even species that had lived for thousands of years gasped in horror. In 6 months of human warfare, the Council had lost over 3,000 ships, 42 major installations, and entire populations on 18 worlds. But those were just the direct casualties. The real damage was to the Council's authority itself. 17 member species have withdrawn from the Council, HFY continued. 43 colonies have declared independence. Our trade networks have collapsed, and several sectors are in open rebellion. General Korthax, his armor now permanently locked in combat configuration, slammed one massive fist against his podium. "Because you're all cowards! We should have glassed Earth the moment they showed resistance." With what fleet? The metal being demanded, its voice grinding with frustration. "They've destroyed or captured most of our ships. Our shipyards are under constant attack. Half our military commanders are dead or missing." The blue creature's ears drooped as it spoke. "I've been analyzing human tactics. They're not just random attacks. There's a pattern. They're specifically targeting our leaders, our infrastructure, our ability to coordinate responses." "Of course there's a pattern," the tree being said bitterly. "These humans have been studying warfare for their entire existence. While we were building a peaceful civilization, they were perfecting the art of killing each other. We're not fighting soldiers. We're fighting a species that treats war as their natural state." New footage appeared on the displays, showing the latest human attack on the hegemony fortress world of Titan Prime. The planet had been considered impregnable, protected by energy shields, and defended by the most advanced weapons in Council space. The humans had simply ignored the shields and landed directly on the planet's surface using some kind of stealth technology. Then they had fought their way through the fortress complex room by room, corridor by corridor, killing everything they found. But it wasn't the tactical success that horrified the Council. It was the way the humans fought. The footage showed human soldiers laughing as they gunned down fleeing hegemony troops. They took trophies from the bodies. They painted alien blood on their faces like war paint. Some of them even seemed disappointed when they ran out of enemies to kill. "Look at them," whispered a crystalline being whose species communicated through light patterns. "They're enjoying this. We're not just fighting for our lives. We're fighting creatures that love death." "Sir," a new voice interrupted. It belonged to a junior aide who had just entered the hall. We're receiving a transmission from Earth. The hall fell silent. In 6 months of warfare, the humans had never tried to communicate with the Council. They simply appeared, killed everything they could find, and disappeared back into space. "Put it through," HFY ordered. The holographic display changed to show a human female in military uniform. She stood in what appeared to be the bridge of a starship, but the design was unlike anything the Council had ever seen. The walls were covered with weapons, and human skulls decorated the command consoles. "Greetings, Galactic Council," the human said in perfect Council standard. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen, commander of the United Earth War Fleet. I believe you've been looking for us." Several Council members recognized her immediately. Admiral Chen was President Chen's daughter, and intelligence reports suggested she was responsible for many of the most brutal human attacks across the galaxy. "We are prepared to discuss terms," HFY said carefully, trying to keep hope out of his voice. Admiral Chen laughed. "Terms? You think we're here to negotiate?" The camera view expanded to show more of the ship's bridge. Human crew members moved efficiently between weapon controls and tactical displays. But what caught the Council's attention were the alien heads mounted on spikes around the command center. Each one belonged to a high-ranking Council military officer. "We're not here to make peace," Admiral Chen continued. "We're here to deliver a warning. You attacked our home. You threatened to enslave our species. That was a mistake you will not survive." "What do you want from us?" General Korthax demanded. "Everything," Admiral Chen replied simply. "Your fleets, your worlds, your lives. We want it all." The metal being's voice crackled with static. "You can't fight the entire galaxy. There are thousands of species in the Council." "Were," Admiral Chen corrected. "Past tense. Half of your member species have already abandoned you. The others will follow soon. We've made sure of that." The display changed to show star charts marking human operations across the galaxy. Red symbols indicated successful attacks, while blue symbols showed ongoing operations. There were thousands of them, scattered across hundreds of light years. "You see, Council members, you made one critical error in your calculations. You assumed we were like other species you'd conquered. You thought we'd fight until we lost, then surrender and accept your rule." Admiral Chen's smile was cold and predatory. "But humans don't lose. We adapt. We learn. We get stronger. And we never, ever forgive." New footage appeared showing human forces on dozens of different worlds. They weren't just attacking military targets anymore. They were systematically dismantling Council infrastructure, capturing technology, and recruiting local populations to fight against their former rulers. "Every species you've oppressed for thousands of years is joining us," Admiral Chen explained. "They're teaching us your weaknesses, your secrets, your fears. In exchange, we're teaching them how to fight, how to win, how to be free." The crystalline being's light patterns flickered with panic. "This is madness! You'll destroy everything we've built, millions of years of civilization." "Your civilization was built on slavery and fear," Admiral Chen replied coldly. "It deserves to be destroyed." The camera view switched to show the exterior of Admiral Chen's ship. It was massive, easily as large as the biggest Council vessels. But unlike the elegant curves of Council designs, this ship looked like it had been built for war. Its hull bristled with weapons, and its surface was scarred with battle damage that had been left unrepaired like badges of honor. "This is the UES Vengeance," Admiral Chen announced. "She's the flagship of a fleet you can't imagine. Ships built from the wreckage of your fleets, crewed by humans who have sworn to never stop fighting until every Council world burns." "How many ships do you have?" the tree being asked, its voice barely a whisper. Admiral Chen's smile widened. "How many do we need?" The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. After a moment, reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. Human fleets had appeared simultaneously at over 100 Council worlds. The attacks were beginning again, bigger and more coordinated than ever before. They've been using this time to prepare, Zexthai realized with growing dread. Every day we spent debating, they spent building ships and training crews. They've turned this war into an industrial production line. General Korthax's armor was clicking so rapidly it sounded like machine gun fire. We have to mobilize everything we have left, every ship, every weapon, every soldier. Against what? The blue creature asked sadly. We don't even know how many human ships there are. They appear from nowhere, strike without warning, and disappear before we can respond. How do you fight an enemy you can't find? The metal being's voice was filled with despair. They're not fighting a war. They're conducting an extermination. Campaign. They won't stop until we're all dead. Then what do we do? The crystalline being asked, its light patterns dim with defeat. The hall fell silent as the most powerful beings in the galaxy struggled to find an answer. For thousands of years, the Council had been the ultimate authority in civilized space. They had conquered worlds, enslaved species, and shaped the galaxy according to their will. Now they were the ones being hunted. Outside the Great Hall, space filled with the lights of approaching ships. But these weren't Council vessels coming to defend their capital. They were human warships, arriving to finish what Earth had started 6 months earlier. The galaxy's apex predators had finally revealed themselves, and they were hungry for revenge. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council shook as human warships took positions around the station. Through the crystal walls, Council members could see the dark shapes of Earth's fleet blotting out the stars, the elegant spires and peaceful gardens of the Council complex were now surrounded by vessels designed for nothing but destruction. Zexthai stood at the central podium, his 4 arms hanging limply at his sides. Around him, the most powerful beings in the galaxy cowered like frightened children. The proud representatives who had once debated the fates of entire species now whispered prayers to long-forgotten gods. Incoming transmission, announced the communication system. Admiral Sarah Chen appeared on the main display, but she was no longer on her ship's bridge. She stood in the Council station's main docking bay, surrounded by human marines in battle armor. Behind her, smoke rose from burning Council security posts. "Hello, Council members," she said pleasantly, as if greeting old friends. "I hope you don't mind that we let ourselves in. Your security forces were very cooperative once we explained the situation to them." The camera view expanded to show the docking bay filled with human soldiers. They had captured the entire station without the Council even knowing they were under attack. "How?" General Korthax whispered, his armor plates clattering with shock. Admiral Chen heard him somehow. "Your people have been fighting bureaucratic battles for so long, they've forgotten how real wars work. We've had agents on this station for months. Your janitors, your cooks, your maintenance workers. Humans are very good at blending in when we need to." The blue creature's ears drooped with despair. "You've been planning this from the beginning." "Of course," Admiral Chen replied. "Did you really think we would attack your worlds without securing your capital first? We've been inside your command structure since the day you threatened Earth. We know everything about you. Your weaknesses, your fears, your escape routes." She gestured to her soldiers, who moved deeper into the station. The sound of weapons fire echoed through the halls as the last pockets of Council security were eliminated. "Please," the crystalline being said, its light patterns flickering with panic. "We surrender. We'll withdraw all forces from human space. We'll leave Earth alone. Just stop the killing." Admiral Chen's expression didn't change. "Stop the killing? But we're just getting started." The display changed to show scenes from across the galaxy. Human fleets were attacking every major Council installation simultaneously. Shipyards burned. Military academies were reduced to rubble. Government centers fell one after another as human forces swept through them like a plague. But it wasn't random destruction. The attacks were surgically precise, targeting specific individuals and facilities while leaving infrastructure intact. See, we've learned a lot about governing a galaxy, Admiral Chen explained. You can't rule through fear alone. You need systems, trade networks, communication relays. We're not destroying your civilization. We're taking it over. This is genocide, the tree being said, its leaves rustling with horror. No, Admiral Chen corrected. Genocide is what you plan to do to us. What we're doing is evolution. The strong replacing the weak. The brave replacing the cowardly. The free replacing the enslaved. The doors to the Great Hall burst open. Human Marines poured in, their weapons trained on the terrified council members. None of the aliens tried to resist. Most simply collapsed where they stood, overwhelmed by the reality of their situation. Admiral Chen walked down the central aisle between the floating seats, her boots clicking on the crystal floor. When she reached HFY's podium, she looked up at him with something almost like pity. You could have avoided all of this, she said quietly, if you had approached Earth with respect instead of arrogance. If you had offered partnership instead of slavery, but you chose to threaten us. You chose to see humans as primitive animals that needed to be controlled. HFY found his voice at last. What happens now? What do you want from us? Admiral. Chen climbed the steps to the podium and stood beside him. From there, she could see the entire assembly of alien representatives who had once ruled the galaxy. I want you to understand something, she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the hall. This was never about conquest. This was about sending a message. Any species that threatens humanity will face extinction. Any government that tries to enslave us will be destroyed. Any force that stands against Earth will be crushed. She activated the communication system, broadcasting her words across the galaxy. People of the former Galactic Council territories, she announced. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of United Earth. As of this moment, the Council government has been dissolved. Your former rulers have been removed from power. You are free. The display showed reactions from across the galaxy as her words reached billions of beings on thousands of worlds. Some celebrated in the streets. Others hid in their homes, terrified of what would come next. Most simply stared at their screens, in shock, unable to process that the council they had feared for generations was gone. To those species who supported the council's attack on Earth, Admiral Chen continued, you have been judged and found guilty. Your governments will be replaced. Your military forces will be disbanded. Your leaders will face human justice. General Korthax tried to speak, but one of the human Marines pressed the barrel of his weapon against the alien's armored head. The message was clear. The time for talking was over. To those species who were enslaved or oppressed by the Council, Admiral Chen said, you now have a choice. Join with Earth in building a new galactic order based on freedom and mutual respect, or stand alone and govern yourselves as you see fit. We will not force our rule on anyone who doesn't threaten us. The blue creature managed to find its voice. What about us? The council members who are still alive? Admiral Chen looked down at the pathetic figure cowering in its floating seat. You will be tried for crimes against sapient life. Some of you will be executed. Some will face imprisonment. A few might even earn forgiveness if you can prove you tried to stop the madness. She turned back to the galaxy-wide broadcast. But understand this, all of you. Earth remembers. We remember every threat, every insult, every act of aggression against our people. We have long memories and longer grudges. Cross us again, and there will be no mercy, no negotiation, no second chances. The display showed human fleets positioned around every major world in the former Council territories. Thousands of ships, all armed with weapons that combined alien technology with human innovation. It was a force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Some of you are probably wondering how a primitive species from a backwater world managed to build such a massive fleet so quickly, Admiral Chen said with a slight smile. The answer is simple. We didn't build it quickly. We've been preparing for this day for decades. The view changed to show vast shipyards hidden in the asteroid belts and dark nebulae around Earth. Human workers and robotic systems had been building warships in secret while the Council believed they were monitoring. A primitive civilization. We knew you were watching us, Admiral Chen explained. We knew you would come eventually, so we prepared. We built ships designed to fight yours. We developed tactics to counter your advantages. We created an entire military infrastructure, while pretending to be helpless. Zexthai stared at the images in horror. You played us. All of it. Your divided nations, your primitive technology, your helpless appearance. It was all an act. Not an act, Admiral Chen corrected. A strategy. Humans are very good at deception when we need to be. We let you see what we wanted you to see while keeping our real capabilities hidden. She walked to the center of the hall and spread her arms wide, addressing the galaxy directly. This is the new reality, she announced. Earth is not just another world to be conquered or controlled. We are the apex predators of this galaxy. We are the species that other species have nightmares about. We are what happens when you push peaceful people too far. The transmission ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence. In the months that followed, the human message spread to every corner of civilized space. Some species tried to resist, only to discover that Earth's threats weren't empty promises. Human fleets appeared wherever resistance grew, and they showed no mercy to those who chose to fight. Other species, particularly those who had suffered under Council rule, welcomed their new human overlords. They found Earth's leadership to be harsh but fair, demanding only that member worlds respect each other's sovereignty and never threaten humanity. The Galactic Council was dissolved permanently. The Great Hall, where thousands of representatives had once debated, was converted into a memorial for the victims of Council oppression. The crystal walls that had once shown the peaceful stars now displayed the names of every being who had died under Council rule. And in a place of honor at the center of the memorial, a simple plaque bore a message in every language of the galaxy. Here lies the Galactic Council, destroyed not by superior technology or overwhelming numbers, but by the simple truth that freedom will always defeat tyranny, no matter how long the fight takes. Zexthai, one of the few council members to survive the trials that